The US stock market closed down at the end of Tuesday's session following another turbulent day.
French President Emmanuel Macron has called for an urgent ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, as well as renewed humanitarian aid into Gaza.
At least 27 people were killed and dozens injured when the roof of a nightclub collapsed early Tuesday in the Dominican Republic.
The US stock market experienced a sharp decline at the close of Tuesday's session, following another day of significant volatility. After posting gains in the morning, stocks began to dip following President Trump's announcement that the US would impose a 104% tariff on all Chinese imports starting on Wednesday. The S&P 500 initially surged by 4.1%, a gain that would have been its strongest in years, but quickly reversed course, plummeting by as much as 3% before recovering slightly to end the day down 1.6%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 320 points or 0.8%, while the Nasdaq Composite declined by 2.1%. The dramatic fluctuations came after global stock markets saw strong rallies earlier in the day, with indexes rising 6% in Tokyo, 2.5% in Paris and 1.6% in Shanghai. Despite these gains, analysts had been cautioning that further volatility was likely, with more ups and downs expected in the coming days. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said China continues to pose a significant threat to the Panama Canal, but emphasized that both the US and Panama will keep it secure.
The United States of America will not allow Communist China or any other country to threaten the canal's operation or integrity. To this end, the United States and Panama have done more in recent weeks to strengthen our defense and security cooperation than we have in decades.
Hegseth made the statement during a ribbon cutting for a new US-financed dock at the Vasco Núñez de Balboa naval base in Panama, which followed his meeting with Panama President José Raúl Mulino. Hegseth's visit comes amid tensions over Trump's claims that the US is being overcharged for using the Panama Canal and that China is influencing its operations. Panama has denied these allegations. At least 6 people have been killed in overnight US airstrikes on Yemen, according to the Houthi rebels. The strikes hit around Hodeida's Al-Hawat district, home to the city's airport, which the Iranian-backed group has used in the past to target shipping in the Red Sea. Other strikes targeted Yemen's mountainous Amran government, north of the rebel-held capital of Sana'a. There, the Houthis described American strikes hitting telecommunication equipment. The US Military Central Command, which oversees American military operations, did not immediately acknowledge the strikes. The US campaign in Yemen began after the rebels threatened to begin targeting Israeli ships again over Israel blocking aid entering the Gaza Strip.
French President Emmanuel Macron has called for an urgent ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, as well as renewed humanitarian aid into Gaza. His trip to Egypt aims to emphasize the importance of establishing another ceasefire after the previous truce collapsed last month.
Nous appelons d'abord à une reprise le plus rapidement possible de l'aide humanitaire. Celle-ci est absolument indispensable compte tenu de la situation critique. Ensuite, nous appelons le plus urgemment possible à la reprise d'un cessez-le-feu. C'est ce dont nous avons besoin. C'est ce qui a été arrêté, malheureusement, le 2 mars dernier.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has rejected a proposed Israeli plan to control aid into Gaza, which he said risks further controlling and callously limiting aid down to the last calorie.
More than an entire month has passed without a drop of aid into Gaza. no food, no fuel, no medicine, no commercial supplies. As aid has dried up, the floodgates of horror have reopened. Gaza is a killing field, and civilians are in an endless death loop.
Charity kitchens have been drawing bigger crowds of Palestinians because other sources of food are running out. More than a month ago, Israel cut off all food, fuel, medicine and other supplies to Gaza's population of more than 2 million, forcing aid groups to ration their stocks. Two Chinese men fighting for the Russian army were captured in eastern Ukraine, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky said Ukraine has information there are significantly more Chinese fighting alongside the Russians in the war. The Ukrainian leader said he ordered his top diplomat to immediately contact Beijing.
Це громадяни Китаю. Я думаю, що це важливий дуже елемент. Я думаю, Сполученим Штатам Америки треба більше приділити увагу тому, що відбувається сьогодні. Але є різниці. Північнокорейці на Курському напрямку воювали проти нас. Китайці воюють на території України. І я думаю, що це важливий момент, який нам треба обговорювати з партнерами.
China has provided strong diplomatic support for Russia since it launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. However, it hadn't been known to have provided Russia with weapons or military expertise, unlike Iran and North Korea.
The ongoing spread of foot and mouth disease across Central Europe has forced several large farms in Estonia to close their doors to visitors. No cases have yet been detected in the country, but outbreaks reported in Hungary and Slovakia have prompted agricultural workers to introduce preventative measures.
No agroturismi ahvatlus ehk näidata tarbijale toiduteekonda põllult väldrikule on väga väike võrreldes selle riski ja hirmuga, mida võimalik pandeemia kaasa toob.
Farms have also implemented several biosecurity protocols on food, the movement of livestock and employee hygiene. Meanwhile, checks to prevent the spread of the disease have led to large queues at the Slovak-Czech border, as transporters of animals, animal products or animal feed can only use 3 crossings when travelling between the two countries. The Czech Republic has not reported any cases of the disease on its territory, but Slovakia has experienced 6 outbreaks of the highly contagious disease in cattle and other animals.
At least 27 people were killed and more than 160 others were injured when the roof of a nightclub collapsed early Tuesday in the Dominican Republic. According to emergency officials, the collapse occurred during a concert by merengue singer Ruby Perez at the Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo, the capital. Authorities say that rescue crews were continuing the search for potential survivors.
Nos hemos concentrado simplemente en sacar las personas, poderlos rescatar, personas que están con vida, para llevarlo a los distintos hospitales y ya más adelante daremos los datos preliminares de lo que ha ocurrido acá con respecto a las víctimas y tanto que están vivas y las fatales.
It is not yet clear what caused the roof to collapse, which happened in the early hours of Tuesday. The nightclub, one of the most famous in the Dominican Republic, has been operating for more than 45 years.
Health concerns crack down on drunk driving. Alcohol consumption per capita fell by 20% in Europe between 2000 and 2019, according to the World Health Organization. Faced with slumping demand, some winemakers are betting on alcohol-free wine to diversify sales. In Belgium, this company produces non-alcoholic wine using vacuum distillation, a process that preserves flavors and aromas better than the other methods.
Donc ici, nous, on commence avec un vin, tout ce qui est de plus normal. Donc on reçoit un vin de nos clients ou de fournisseurs, français, espagnols, etc. Et alors, on va le passer dans une unité de distillation sous vide Donc on va mettre le vin à 100 millibars absolu, donc presque le vide absolu. Et donc là, il faudra seulement un tout petit peu chauffer le vin pour évaporer l'alcool.
The European Commission recently presented a series of measures to ensure the wine sector remains competitive and resilient. In particular, it proposes supporting the market of 0% or low alcohol wines by clarifying the rules on the single market.
De notre point de vue, effectivement, le marché du vin sans alcool permet d'aider la filière du vin, en tout cas pour nous ici, vu qu'il faut d'abord produire un vin avec alcool. Et donc ça permet de faire tourner les vignes, les vignerons, les caves et toute cette partie-là du secteur. Et donc c'est plutôt, on va nous s'ajouter en fin de chaîne, on va être juste une étape en plus.
While some wine growers may have viewed alcohol-free bottles with suspicion in the past, many have since watered down their wine.
The wine in a way becomes a little bit the baby of the winemaker, and to see it going through a dealcoholization process is a bit difficult. But that was just in the beginning, and then afterwards they understand. Most winemakers are commercial, have a commercial side as well, so it's important to adapt to the market. So afterwards, it's a lot more accepted.
For now, the European wine industry is holding its breath and its eyes fixed on the United States. Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 200% surcharge on European wine if the European Commission retaliates to the tariffs by taxing American bourbon.